Hello and welcome to video 3 in my series on the Octatrack 2. First of all, I'm going to do a bit of mopping up from the other day with video 2, a couple of things I want to talk about before we move on. I actually meant to say in video 1 that you obviously won't have the same samples as me in your Octatrack, so if you're following along with my tutorials, just pick your own kick, hi-hat, snare, bass, all those sounds that I'm using, something similar to mine if you want to. I ran into a bit of a problem with video 2 when I was using that bass sample because it was sounding a bit strange and I couldn't think for the life of me what was wrong until after I'd finished filming. It suddenly dawned on me that I hadn't turned the time stretching off. That was why it was sounding wobbly and weird, so I've since done that. I'll show you how we do that. This is the track with the bass on it. You press AED, which is the audio editor, and you press FX1, which is aligned with the attributes, and you can see time stretch is off. If I scroll down to that with the down arrow, and if I go to the right arrow, it's on, or it's on normal, shall we say, and then off. So that's what it should have been. It wasn't, it was on normal, so it was trying to stretch the timing of that sample, hence the weird wobbly sound. Because the bass was sounding a bit strange, I kind of rushed the notes I recorded, so I decided to re-record the bass notes so it sounds a bit more musical now. And then once I'd done that on pattern 5, I copied that bass track, that track 4, on pattern 5 to patterns 1, 2, 3 and 4. And I'll show you how to do that, just in case you don't know. So make sure the correct track is in focus, so track 4 is in focus. Make sure the record light is on, okay? And you press function and copy, and that copies the track, and then you go to the pattern you want. In my case it was pattern 1, and you press funk and paste, funk and stop button if you like, and that pastes that track into pattern 1. And I did that for pattern 1, pattern 2, pattern 3 and pattern 4. So I've now got that revised bass line on all 5 of these patterns. Now I also, in the course of the 2 lessons, copied pattern 3 to pattern 4, and I haven't actually done anything different with pattern 4, so at the moment we've got 2 identical patterns, 3 and 4, but I'll probably come back and use pattern 4 on something. Having done all that, I resaved, renamed it, and it's now YouTube 1D. So we've now got YouTube, YouTube A, B, C and D, so I can go back if things go wrong. One thing I didn't talk about in any detail was the retiming of the re-trigger. So let's go to pattern 5 like that, let's play it. And that little thing on the end of the second bar on track 2 where the snare lives, on that trig 15 there's that re-trigger. So if I hold that, you'll see re-trigger is on 3, and I'm not quite sure what I did with the retiming. I'm not sure I did anything at all. So let's have a look at that. So if I hold that trigger 15 down and I rotate this, now the thing to do with this is to push in, go all the way up to 8 and then bring it back to the one you want. Otherwise you get these kind of weird in-between values like this. So press the trig, push in, go up to 8 and come back to the one you want. Shall we say quarters maybe? Let's try that. That's a bit too fast I think. So I'll push it in, bring it up to halves maybe. That's perfect, see? So the retiming, this RTIM retiming, that sorts out the gaps between those extra notes in the re-trigger. Obviously the higher the number in the retiming, the bigger the gap between the re-triggered notes. So sorry, I kind of rushed that again. I was getting in a bit of a state because I had all that problem with the bass, so things got a bit rushed. Sorry about all that. Okay, so I think we're about ready to carry on into video number 3 proper. So what we're going to do now is we're going to press part, and we're going to copy part 2, which is actually highlighted, to part 3. So I'm on part 2, I hold function and copy, and it says copy part 2. I use the down arrow so that the 3 has got that dotted outline, and I press function and paste, and now part 3 is the same as part 2. And just to remind you, the parts are the things that have all the assignments of samples and machines and parameters, etc. We're on pattern A05, bank A, pattern 5. So we're on the pattern I want, and we're now going to assign pattern 5 to part 3. So we'll simply press part, we're on part 2, we'll come down to part 3, and I'll press yes. Now if we look, this pattern 5 has got part 3 above it. Good, that's great. Now in this pattern, using this part, we're going to add some delay to the entire kick track, which is track 1. So we make sure T1 track 1 is in focus. Now effects 2, if I press effects 2, it's on delay, it defaults to that. These items here, source, amp, LFO, FX1, FX2, there are 2 pages to all of these. So I'm going to double tap this, and that's the other page for the effects 2 setup page. And I'm going to rotate the D encoder to turn the sync on. Might have been on already, but just to be sure, that means that the delay will now run in time with the tempo. I don't think I have to worry about anything else for the moment, so I'm going to press to go back to the other page of the delay. I'm going to turn the time up to 16, which means that the delay is going to be in semiquavers. So here we go, 16, that's good. And I'm going to turn the send up to 80, how much I'm sending out from the kick drum track to the delay effect. 80, a little bit fiddly to do. Right, so that's on 80, that's good. The volume, top right, controls the dry wet mix. So if you turn the volume all the way down, it's just a dry signal, there's no delay. So I'll back that off a little bit, see how that sounds. Now the FB, which is on the B encoder, is feedback, how many repeats we get. Now if you turn that all the way up, it will never stop repeating, even if you turn the sequencer off. So we'll back that off to about 70, and let's see how that sounds. Hopefully you can hear that. It's kind of going do-do, do-do, do-do. So I want to hear the kick drum without the other sounds so I can assess what the delay is like. So I'm going to press mix. I'm going to hold Q. I've already done this, as you can see, but I've undone it and done it again now. You can hear just the kick drum and the amount of delay on it, which is fine, isn't it? So we're happy with that. So we'll unsolo that. There are loads of things you can do with the effects, especially the delay. I was learning yesterday how to do the freeze delay thing. I'm not going to show you that now because that's pretty complicated, but that's something to look forward to, and that's really good fun. Now I didn't press down any triggers when I did that, did I? So obviously that delay is being applied to the whole of that kick drum track. Brilliant, that's good. Now remember, this delay is only on the kick track in part 3. So if I go to pattern 1, which is part 1, now listen. No delay on the kick drum. Pattern 2, no delay. Pattern 3, no delay. Pattern 4, no delay. But pattern 5, coming up, we've got the delay, see? So it's specific to the part, not the pattern. I know I keep saying that. I'm kind of saying it to myself as much as I am to you, just so that it kind of sinks in. Now, we've altered something whilst on part 3, so we need to save part 3. Just to be on the safe side, I'll hold function and part, and I'll scroll down and save all the parts. Now we're safe knowing that all parts, even though we haven't used part 4 yet, they're all saved. If I mess things up in them, I can get it back. Think it might be time to save. I'll just do a normal save, not a save to new. So function and project, and we'll press yes, and that's saving the project. And that's great, good, brilliant. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about gain staging, the settings of volumes. Now There's a couple of bits here that are a bit complicated and I'm going to leave for the moment. There's lots of ways you can turn things up and down on this instrument, and I've mentioned some of them already, of course. If we hold the function button and the level button, that turns the whole thing up and down. Everything, so pretty straightforward. If I just turn the level encoder without pressing function, the track that I've got in focus will be turned up and down. So there's the kick drum disappearing and coming back. Obviously we've got 100 there, and we can come above that. Let's leave it on 100 for the moment, so I think that's where I had it. Remember, I'm changing the level in part 3, so if I change this and I go to part 1, let's have a look at the level for the kick drum there. Luckily it is 100, but you see you can very easily get mismatches with your levels. Be very careful if you're working in different parts. Another way of changing the level is in the audio editor, AED. ATTR, the attribute, and the top item is the gain. Now this is a different kind of gain because this is cut and boost. So at the moment it's set at 0 dB. So I can cut that and then I can boost it. It's too much there obviously. Now I kind of equate this, being a guitarist, to the two gains you normally have on a guitar amp. You know, the one that turns up everything, kind of a master level, and then the one that gives you the distortion. If you're a guitarist, you'll know what I'm talking about. So I equate this gain to that other one, the one that gives you the kind of distortion. So use this sparingly. I tend to leave this on 0. If your sample is very weak, you could always turn it up here. You want a bit of boost. This one cuts and boosts. Let's turn that off. On the amp page here, which is second one along, there's a volume control, and again this one cuts and boosts. It's on encoder D, so that's cutting, gone. Now there's the middle, which is 0 dB, and I can boost it. Not quite as fierce as the sample gain control, is it? But that's a cut and boost as well. And there's these ones, if I press the A and the B, you'll see the level and the blank rectangle there turn into XLV, X volume. See, so that's to do with the crossfader. I'm not going to get into that at this stage because it's far too complicated, but I will deal with it obviously in time. So that's gain staging, a bit of a boring subject, but it's important to get your levels right. If things are distorting, you want to know how to sort that out. If things are a bit weak, also you want to know how to turn them up. So we're doing well today. Now here's a really fun bit for you now. Using slots keyboard mode to record multiple sounds into one track. Now with real-time recording, you can record sounds from different slots into the same track. So I'm going to hold function and up, and I'm going to choose the slots mode. Now you can see I've got my kick drum, snare drum, hi-hat, bass sound, other hi-hat, and the rim shot. I've got those 6 sounds at my disposal on those 6 pads. So with track 7 in focus, you can see this is blank. There are no samples assigned to this. If I double tap it, you can see it's empty. That's a coincidence, by the way, that 7 and 7 lines up. What I'm trying to get over to you here is that slot 7 doesn't go with track 7. It just happens to be a coincidence. So what I'm going to do here, just for the sake of tidiness, I'm going to avoid slots 7 and 8. I'm going to come down to slot 9, and I'm going to assign different short percussive samples to slots 9 and 16. So if I use the right arrow, let's find something suitable here. Roland. Right, we've got some percussion sounds here, percussion folder, so in there. Let's just have a listen to a few of these. That's okay, so we'll assign that. Right, so that's in 9. Come down to 10. Okay, right arrow, scroll down, see what these are like. That one's a bit different, we'll use that one, yes. So I've now assigned a sample to 9 and to 10. Let's go down to 11. I'm going to come out of this and do some hi-hats, I think. So now if I scroll up to 9, I've got 7 and 8 missing, which is fine, and I put different little short percussion and hi-hat samples on 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 and 16. We're going to turn the metronome on. So funk and mix, metronome on. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn this pattern, pattern number 1, into a 4-bar pattern. I'm going to hold function and page. Keep pressing page until I get 64 out of 64. Now I've got 4 bars in which I can record all those different sounds. I'm just going to do it randomly. I've got no idea how this is going to come out, but I can always alter it afterwards. Let's press function and page again to come out of that. So I've got my metronome on. Yeah. Don't forget, if you press function and mix, it turns it off again, so it toggles on off. So I'm on, definitely on. Record button's on. I should get a pre-roll with a bit of luck. Here we go. Okay, so that was pretty wild, wasn't it? But you know, you get the idea. I was able to record all those different sounds into that single track 7. There's nothing showing in the display. So if I press record, now you can see where I've recorded trigs. And press and hold those trigs. Right, that was that sound I used. You'll see the sample I used there. And then that was that one, number 9, number 10, number 12, number 13, go to bar 2, 14, 14 again, 15, 11. You see what I mean? So you can see where all those different slots were recorded onto those trigs in that 4-bar pattern. So the other tracks that are playing 4 bars, if I go to the kick drum, you'll see if I hold function and page, that's showing 64, 64. They're all playing 4 bars. When you alter this, you're not altering it by the track, you're altering it for the whole pattern. Good stuff. So now we've got this. Let's turn that off. Yeah, it's very cuckoo, isn't it? If you know him, this is the sort of thing he likes doing, and he's rather better at it than I am. A couple of those trigs are a bit loud, but we won't worry about that for the moment. At least I've shown you how you can use the slots keyboard mode to record multiple sounds into one track. And obviously you have to have that track in focus to be able to see those results that I showed you earlier, which is track 7. Be very careful with the thing I'm going to show you next. If you want to clear all the trigs in a track, make sure the record button is lit. Okay, and if it's lit like that, and you press function and clear, okay, that will clear all the trigs out of a particular track. And if you do that again, they'll be restored. If the record light is not on, that will actually erase the entire pattern, so be very careful of that. Right, so the next thing I want to show you is setting up track 8 as a master track. And if you've watched any YouTube videos on this device, you'll see that most people tend to do this. The advantage of it is that you can use track 8 to add extra effects to the whole machine. So the other 7 tracks feed into this 8th track. In fact, I think all the tracks in all the patterns and all the parts feed into this track. So you've got extra effects, extra control. The downside, of course, is that you lose a track in doing it. You'll only have 7 tracks to record stuff into. So I'll show you how to do it. You press project. You go down to control. So I'm going to come over, control, over to the right hand column. Audio is already highlighted. Press yes. We're over on the left hand side. Track 8 has normal ticked. So if I come up and master is highlighted but it's not ticked. If I say yes, now it's ticked, and now track 8 is the master track. So if I say no and come out of this, hopefully you can see that that is an M there for master. All the others are S for static. So track 8 is the master track. Normally with tracks, if you double tap them, you get to choose the slots. But if I double tap this, it just says master track. It just warns you that you've got a master track there. Press it again. So all the audio is routed through this. If I play the, where am I? I'm on part 2. Let's go to our pattern 5, shall we? So with the delayed kick drum. So if I just turn the level down, because I'm on track 8, the master track, everything goes down, see? So that's proving that that track 8 is set as the master track. I'm going to set 2 effects up on this. Now, we've already got the DJ equalizer and delay, and that's probably fine. I'll probably just leave it at that for the moment. You can set up any of the effects that you normally get on the tracks on this particular track, the master track. And of course, everything feeding through this track will be affected by these effects. Right, so let's just do this on the DJ equalizer for the moment. So let's go to the delay. If you find that your delay is not working, if you go to the other page and have a look here, if lock is turned on, you won't hear the delay working, because that's to do with the freeze delay, which is another subject I spoke about earlier. So make sure the sync's on but the lock is off, okay? And also make sure the tape is off. Okay, so now we can add delay to the master track. Turn up the time, send, bit crazy, we'll turn that down to 32. Okay, now the bass and the width are kind of tone controls. Turn the feedback down a bit. Tone controls for the delay, obviously not the main track. Change the time. So notice if you use 16, 32, 64, that makes sense musically. Turn it up to 64. Now, see it's playing in time. So, DJ, equalizer, and the delay. This is all on the master track. Turn the feedback up. Don't turn it up too much, like I said earlier. You get the idea. And this is a great track to use with a crossfader, and you'll see that in due course. You'll remember that when I pressed the mix button and did the muting and soloing on that page, that doesn't work with the master track. And the master track is global to all patterns in all banks. So it's a very important track, isn't it? Right, good stuff. Let's go to pattern 4, which we haven't used yet, other than copy one to the other. And let's talk about scenes and the crossfader. Now I must stress this is going to be a basic tutorial. This is a pretty deep subject. I'll do a more advanced tutorial later on, but this will get you up and running with your crossfader. So here we go again. Let's go back and think about this. Each project has 16 banks with 4 parts per bank. Each part has 16 possible scenes. So that's 64 scenes per bank, which gives you a possible 1024 scenes for the entire project. Scenes are assigned to the A and the B buttons, either side of this crossfader here. And by pressing either button and then one of the 16 pads. So if I press the A button here, you'll see 1 and 9 have lit up. If I press the B, they've lit up but with opposite colours. So if you press the A button, the button assigned to A is in red and the button assigned to B is in green, and if I press the B button it's the other way around. At the bottom corner of the display you can see which pads have been assigned to A and B and the position of the slider. If I move it there, it's very small. I'll leave it in the middle for the moment. The idea here is to parameter lock items to tracks in a pattern, pressing and holding A and then pressing and holding B, so that when you slide the crossfader from left to right, any speed you like, it runs very easily, this crossfader. There's no friction there at all. So if you slide the crossfader across, you'll hear the sound morphing as the parameters change. So it's a good idea to have the sequencer running as you make the changes, and it's a good idea to have the crossfader all the way over if you're adjusting B like that, and if you're setting A, have the crossfader over in the A position. Now if you press and hold either the A or B buttons, you'll see any changes in the parameters black on white. Now so if I press A, I haven't made any changes at all. I'm going to do this on track 8 because track 8, the master track, is a very good track to use for this. Let's go to the DJ equalizer. So I press A and I haven't made any changes. So let's get the sequence running. I'm going to hold the A button down. That's set on this button here, number 1, this pad here, number 1. I'm going to change some parameters while holding onto the A. So I've dramatically changed that. Now I'm going to come over to B, and here it's changed as it's gone back to the way it was before. So if I come over to A and press and hold A, you can see the ones that I've changed highlighted black on white. So let's come over to B. So there's B. By the way, you don't see the changes on the screen, it's only when you press the button. So on the B button there you can see the parameters I've changed on the delay. So I'm going to hold button B and change the DJ equalizer. Okay, that's locked in. See the ones I've changed. Over to A, different, B, different. Must remember to hold the button down. Okay, so I've set up some changes from A to B. Now, if you don't want the crossfader to do anything, just press and hold A and a pad that you haven't assigned it to. So if I go to 2 for the A and 10 for the B, now crossfader doesn't work. So you might want to do that if you're wanting to have something just running smoothly normally, because as soon as you go for the ones that have been assigned, A and B, 1 and 9, then your crossfader starts to work. See? So that wasn't very expert, was it? But I'm sure you got the general drift of it. And I've done this on pattern 4 and it's in part 2. Right, so that's been assigned to part 2. So if I go to pattern 1 and play this, see the crossfader doesn't work because those scenes were assigned to part 2. So if I go to pattern 4, which is part 2, those scenes, 2 out of my possible 16, were assigned to this part. Now if I press play, now they work. So again, scenes are assigned to parts. People like EasyBot they're absolutely brilliant with this. I urge you to watch his videos. He is an absolute master with this thing. I'm just showing you the basics of how to get it set up and get it working. There's a guy I was watching the other day who was doing scratching with this. He had a vocal spoken word sample and he was scratching using the crossfader, and that's great fun. I did try a bit of that, but I'm no expert at it yet. When I've sorted that out, I'll show you that as well. So at the moment we've only got these two scenes, but obviously you could set up different scenes on all the other pads and it could be absolutely amazing to have all the different pads assigned to different scenes, all with different sets of parameters morphing one to the other, A to B, B to A. Final thing I'm going to show you today is how to make a simple arrangement. So I'm going to press the arrangement button here. It's already on edit, so press yes, and it says arrangement is empty. Press function and down to insert row. So function down arrow. Now it's chosen A04 because that was the pattern that I was on. So if I use the level encoder, I'm going to bring that back to A01, don't worry about that halt for the moment. So now my song, my arrangement consists of one pattern. Now if I use the right arrow to come over to REP, which is repeat, and if I scroll the encoder to 4, that will now run for 4 times. So if I hold function and down, it's input another pattern 1 4 times. So let's come down to that with the down arrow, so that is actually highlighted. Let's change A01 to A02, pattern 2. Let's have that just twice. Function and down, that will copy that, come down to it. It's a bit clunky this, but it does work. Let's change this to pattern 3, twice, function down, come down to it, make sure it's highlighted, you see. We'll make that pattern 4, twice, function and down, come down to it, it's already input the A04, so we'll change that to A05. So if I hold function and arrangement, you can see this red light's come up. So if I press play now, it will play the arrangement. 4 lots of pattern 1, now pattern 2, a couple of times, pattern 3 a couple of times, pattern 4 a couple of times, now let's just go up here and we'll press function and down. We'll put one more item here before the end. Let's go back to pattern 1. Pattern 01. There's lots of other things on here which I'm not going to deal with today because it's just too long. So we'll put this in just once and then we'll come down, put it in again, and we're going to this time come over to length, and at the moment it should be 32 steps. We'll bring this all the way back to 2. Now because it's only 2 semiquavers, it will finish in a more logical way. So if I run it again, you'll see what happens. And it ended in a more logical way, didn't it? Now at the moment I'm looking at this in the arranger window. If I come out of that by pressing no, couple of times. Now I've got the arranger in this bottom right hand section of the screen. So if I play that again and watch what happens, we've got a bar beats and ticks readout at the top, and you'll see the arrangement scroll down. I won't do the whole thing this time, but you'll get the idea. You can see where we are. Let's drop down now to 001. 000 is the first part of the arrangement, 001 is the second part, and it's dropping down and going through. That's a very brief tutorial on how the arranger works, and there's loads more we can do with this, but I don't want to get too deep into it today. I don't want to fry your brains. So that was a bit of a funny old lesson today. I covered lots of topics, not in any great detail or with any great expertise, but enough to hopefully whet your appetite. The thing to do with this thing is to just try stuff. If it goes wrong, just reload the song or reload the part. So talking of reloading, let's make sure we've saved everything. Let's go to part, so function and part. Let's save all. Okay, so yes, so all the parts are saved. And now we're going to save this to a different letter of the alphabet. So project, I'll go up to project, come over. Sync to card is something I've been advised to do. Make sure the card and the device itself are kind of in sync, so I'll say yes. It says safe to eject. That means you can, I think, eject the compact flash card with the machine still turned on, but personally I'm a bit scared to do that. Let's just come out of this arrangement mode, shall we? To a more normal view. And now we're going to, go to project again. Let's go to save to new, yes. And it's come up with 1D, move the cursor over, hold function, and we'll change this to E. So YouTube 1E, it's that iteration of the project. Press yes, saving as new. And now we have our new project, YouTube 1E. So there we are. That is the end of today's tutorial. It was a bit haphazard, wasn't it? But if you either enjoyed today's lesson or you felt you got some value out of it, please give it a like and consider subscribing to my channel. If you feel moved to make a donation to me, either my YouTube channel, you can do that these days, or on my website, which is www.daddylonglegs.com. That's greatly appreciated. It helps me carry on doing what I do. On my website there's loads of interesting things you can see. My strange musical life I lead, which is using stuff like this, things like the Dirty Wave M8, the Teenage Engineering OPXY, and I also play loads of instruments, guitar, I play banjo, I play melodeon, I play concertina. It's a pretty crazy website. Have a look at that. I think you'll find it interesting. Anyway, enough from me. So like I say, thank you very much for watching today, and you'll see me in my next video.